It's one of the better threshold sessions I've seen them both run this segment, and they're doing it off of 120, 130 mile weeks, so it's going really well.
Here today with James McCurdy of McCurdy Trained. Where are we at today and who's working out?
All right, well, thank you for coming out again. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. We are at our favorite spot, my favorite spot, Kilty, West Kilty Loop, about 7,300 feet up here in Flagstaff. It is a beautiful day today, very light wind, and we got John and Matt, John Ranieri, Matt McClintock getting ready. It's the final session of note before the U.S. Marathon Championships in CIM 10 days from now. So this is our last session.
So what's the workout for the day?
Today we're gonna go 3 by 2.5 miles at around half marathon intensity, maybe a slightly faster if they get the legs moving a little bit. They generally run really well up here, so I anticipate anywhere from 450 to 455 per mile. But they're coming off of a lot of mileage, so I don't want to say that's exactly what's going to happen. That would be my hope, but I wouldn't be surprised if they both feel a little bit tired just because they've been working so hard. Yeah, so the objective of a session like this, we're not building any more fitness. You know, the science kind of shows us that within 3 weeks of a goal race, your fitness is really determined. So we're really just focusing on touching intensity and keeping the volume of speed relatively normalized about 10 days out with what they've been doing for this type of work. So hitting anywhere from 7 and 9 miles of this type of work is not something they're unaccustomed to. So it's not going to be something that is going to destroy their body, but still keep their legs moving, get the blood flow going in their entire body, and feel like they're doing some work without overreaching at the same time. We don't need to run 12 or 13 miles of this type of intensity. That's crazy today. But nor do we need to have these massive, massive long runs within 2 weeks of a race either.
So John hasn't raced that much this build. What's kind of been like the goal and plan with his build?
Yeah, so, you know, coming off of surgery in the spring, it took a little bit of time to get him going, get him moving. He spent a lot of time in upstate New York and in Nantucket over the summer. And that was really hard training, but it was something that was very good for him to do, get used to that heat, humidity, and just kind of get back to some of the basics that he loves doing, spending time with his family and getting on some of the roads that he loves running on the East Coast. But since Labor Day and now, he hasn't raced at all. We've just really focused on training and development of fitness and getting him to a place where he feels really good about where he's at. And the mission for him was every week, just where are we and what do we need to do? What do we need to do to get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better? And it's taken a lot of patience, a lot of trust in himself and in the training, but we've seen that fitness really come around to that next level of ability, and he's ready to compete for a U.S. championship.
And then Matt, on the other hand, he had a good finish at, was it 10 miles?
Yeah, it was a team record, 46:46 at the USATF 10-mile championships in Twin Cities this year, which is a really challenging course. He ran a fantastic race, and one I think that we both agree on was probably up to that point was one of the best races of his career, and one that he's certainly more proud of than some of the other races he's run, even though he's finished in the top 10 at U.S. championships in the past. But that was a race that showed him, in my mind, that he's ready to compete with the best in the country. He ran his way. He ran it the way he wanted to run it, and he came out on with an incredible finish. And that's a good, challenging course. It was so good that we decided to not race a month later at Indianapolis because it wasn't going to show us anything different. You know, it was basically the same type of distance, so we trusted that we accomplished the things we needed to accomplish in that segment of training, and we could just focus on the marathon. So he hasn't raced since early October, and it'll be about 8 or 9 weeks between the 10-mile and the marathon itself.
So they're both in pretty similar shape right now. What's kind of like the goal and hopes for CIM?
See, we want to be competitive. You know, we don't want to discount anybody in the field. You got Noah Droddy, you've got Brendan Gregg, you've got Matt Yano, you got Jacob Thompson, Futsum Zeneselassie is making his debut, their former teammate and now on NAZ. You've got some really, really talented people on the line, and you're gonna see some heads turn with some other performances. I think there's a few athletes that are kind of unsung, where their prior marathons just aren't to the ability they actually are as athletes. One to look out for in my mind is Lou Serafini. He's a terrific athlete, terrific runner. He's run, I believe, 2:15 on New York City's course, and I peep every once in a while to his training, and he looks really fit right now. So I think there's going to be a few guys in that situation. And so our mission is to compete with everybody and be in a position to be in the top spots in the final 5 miles, the final 3 miles, the final 2, and ultimately that final straightaway. But the 20-degree mornings, and then 90 minutes later it's 32. The Flagstaff is different because the atmospheric pressure is so much less. 32 doesn't feel like a sea level 32. Certainly doesn't feel like a northeast 32 where it's a bit raw. Here, these guys are going to be wearing shorts and likely a t-shirt in their reps, and it's low 30s, and you wouldn't do that in the northeast. It feels like a northeast 45 or 50. I love it. Initially, I had 3x3 miles, but these guys have been running so well on their long runs, and some of the runs even finished. Yeah, actually, this past weekend they finished with a 4:45 on Lake Mary, and they've just been feeling so good that it doesn't make sense to me to push the envelope at all. I want some volume. So 7.5 miles in my mind doesn't push the envelope there. But we're not gaining any fitness. We're just maintaining a specific load of volume and getting the legs turning over, something that they're familiar with. And if they come away from this feeling like they have another 2 or 3 reps in them, that would be ideal. I don't want them to feel like they're smoked, their hands on knees. I want them to feel pretty good. But it's not an easy course, right? We're going to do the 1.5 mile loop and then a 1 mile loop. And this place is very similar to CIM, where it's just constantly up and down, up and down, up and down. So it gives them a chance to run a little bit faster than marathon intensity on similar terrain, so that when they run this weekend, they're going to run a mini marathon session. And certainly when they get to CIM, running marathon pace on this terrain feels like they're floating. And that's really what you want to feel. Shouldn't be hard the first 15, 18 miles, 20 miles. It really shouldn't be hard at all.
I did more in this build than I did in
my
3 marathon builds as Zap.
Yeah.
And on the off weeks, we would run 10-day cycles, or closer to 12 usually. Zap. But on the off weeks, we'd go run 2 hours and 25 minutes really hard. And John and I were still getting in 2-hour long runs every week in conjunction with those.
Yeah. I think that's what happens sometimes, though. Like marathon specificity, it's really about the volume of threshold and just getting used to running
For a long time.
Just getting used to running marathon pace and taking it, because there's no physiological benefit to marathon. Not really, right?
For us, it's close to steady state. But
it's not.
Yeah, no. John and I were talking about this. Yesterday. The idea that like a lot of training, you almost train a intensity block behind, either in front of or behind what your goal, right? So like 5K, I personally don't believe that me training for a 5K interval pace does a lot. Like me doing 4 by mile, because I can't do enough of it, but 6 by mile at 28 to 30 minute like front end to critical velocity.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah.
You're training for the 10 mile, a lot of threshold. It's a pace block back.
It's a pace block back, and you're getting some critical velocity, which is just
right,
in front
but
of
you're
it.
just hitting just the touch, the front end, and some interval quarters or something like on top of it. But you don't. Scott Fauble with his marathon training, he's doing critical velocity or like that 5:20 pace progression stuff. You're hitting either side. You don't need to nail.
I have a feeling we don't see everything that Scott's doing, but I think we see a lot of it to make good assumptions about what things are looking like.
In general, the old Daniel's theory of like you're running a 5K, run interval and run interval.
I think,
you're running a 10K, run.
You've got to develop VO2 max, but you don't need to be touching on that every single session for a 5K.
Right, because you don't get enough strength.
Yeah.
If you're running CV, like you're training for a 5K, you're better off. When John and I were talking about it too, we're like, you're running a 3K.
Yeah.
You should be doing a lot of interval.
Yeah.
11-minute race pace. It's a pace block back.
Yep.
If you're running a 1500,
you
should be doing a lot of rep and interval. And we were talking, we think that even for, like, let's say, like training world-class 800, I think you need more threshold for that than you do a 1500.
Well, I look at what Mike Smith is doing and again, we're not privy to everything, but so much of his work that I see on the track is threshold and aerobically based. And Opti just ran a 13:24 at New York. Like,
yeah, I mean, if you're training CV, you're still touching 94 to 97%
yeah,
VO2 max.
yeah,
If you're getting down to, like, let's say 10K, you're hitting 96, 97. If you're
Yeah.
running 10K pace at 25-minute race pace, so you're getting a upper VO2 max stimulus.
yeah, you're still getting
But you
some.
can do 6 miles of it, not 4.
Yeah.
Before you're toast.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can do 6 or 7 CV miles on the track, and then it's okay. Yeah,
And
I
if
can
you
run
If
7.
you can handle
I can run
7 by 430 at 7,000 feet.
Right, or 7 by 4 at 435.
Yeah.
Even you take the 15-second.
Yeah.
440 even. You take
Yeah.
that 15-second conversion
Yeah.
down to, let's say, 10K pace, 425 to 428.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be in really great. You
Yeah.
can run a 5K at 420s.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because you have that volume.
Let's talk about pacing.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see in the range of 450 to 455.
Okay.
Okay. Right?
Okay.
If it's 455 to 5, that's fine. But I'd really like to see
aim to
450 to
start.
455.
Sorry, I'm aiming to start at the 455.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Close to 440 pace. Down here.
Walk grass, grab water, jog in anywhere inside of that as you see fit. All right, just clear some of that lactate that we just put in, but only on feel. No expectations on it. Right?
Yeah,
if you get a 72 in there, don't all of a sudden slow down to a 77. Right?
Well, I mean, that was a 72 down the hill too. Granted,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. We settled though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 2.5 just because we ran the threshold.
All right, whenever you guys are ready, we're at 210 now. All depends on where they sit. First mile in that grouping was 450. So they're running well. It's, it's always adjusting on kilty because it's not flat. So it's a constant state of using what it gives you and then auto-correcting and not forcing on any of the uphill. Nice work, guys. Nice work. Nice job. Grab a little water as you need it. And jog as it makes sense for you to help clear that lactate. It's one of the better threshold sessions I've seen them both run this segment. And they're doing it off of 120, 130 mile weeks, so it's going really well. There we go. Solid. Yeah, some of the best threshold I've seen you run yet.
I don't, man. I wish 4:44 pace was
Well,
fresh.
no, but
Yeah.
I mean, the idea
Yeah.
was to get a little faster, a little
Yeah.
faster, a little faster, but
Yeah.
still kind of, be within
Yeah.
the range, right? Like,
Yeah.
you were doing Ks here and you weren't keeping up that speed.
Yeah.
Like four weeks ago, you were doing 1,000-meter repeats.
Yeah. No.
And
no.
you
it was
weren't
a good
running
session.
that. Yeah.
It was.
So, I'm pumped as shit.
So post-workout, what are kind of some observations from today's work?
Yeah, so I thought they'd come in a little heavy, but they were still breathing reasonably well for what I wanted to hear out of the intent of the session. So they weren't in their breathing, they were relatively controlled, and within 2 to 2.5 minutes, they were more than ready to hit it up again. I think within a minute they were already talking normal. So the intent of the session was great and met. They got a little quicker at the end. Every segment was just a little faster than the segment before. So the first 1.5, the second 1.5, the third 1.5. The third was their fastest. Their third final mile compared to the first 2 final miles, their third final mile was their fastest. So they got faster as they went along, and it came to them naturally. And it's a very honest place to run. There's no hiding up here, especially with the undulation of terrain. So you can't fake it. There are other places in town, on Lake Mary, you can fake some really fast miles. You can't fake anything up here, which is why I wanted them to be here for their final session, to give them that, oh shit, I am where I think I am. That moment of, I'm ready. I can compete with the very best. And I think every week, every purposed workout that we've had has just been, it hasn't been perfect, but has been a step of and a boost of confidence, just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and they're both hitting their stride at the right time.
John kind of said this was the first sustained threshold in a while.
Yeah.
What kind of made you choose to do that this close to the race?
Well, I didn't see the need in running too fast. Again, there's no risk, or there's no reason to risk running like 5K or 10K intensity 10 days out. They've done a lot of marathon work. And they just came off a marathon session from this past weekend. So I didn't want to double up on that. So this is the session that made the most sense. One of the things that we did differently this segment for about 9 or 10 weeks, maybe closer to 11 weeks, we did speed on Tuesday. We did a moderate long run, anywhere from 1 hour and 50 to 2 hours and 20 minutes on Thursday. That was relatively easy. Every once in a while it'd be a somewhat fast finish. And then inside of this marathon segment specifically, Saturday was a marathon specific long run. So only 48 hours after a moderate to long run on a Thursday. So they always went into every single marathon run tired, a little fatigued. And that's one of the things that I think we've been missing in our prior marathon segments. And something that we have adopted into this phase of training, and I've done it with a few other athletes across the country and internationally, and it's worked out really well. So I'm excited to see for them, if they get the day that we believe that they could have, I'm really excited for them, because I think they can turn some heads with their efforts and be right up there. Threshold, again, it's not over the top, it's not too fast, it's just enough where they say, oh, I'm working. But for them to feel like they're just touching that at 4:48 and 4:50 pace at 7,300 feet on rolling terrain, yeah, they're ready to move.
Any other final thoughts leading into CIM?
Yeah, I think, for Matt, his PR is 2:18:03 at CIM from years ago. And he has a kind of a chip on his shoulder about it, and a healthy chip on his shoulder about it. And he's also had a few DNFs due to some things that were beyond his control in prior training and prior marathon racing. But we've worked really hard this segment and over the last 6 months to really understand what his missing links were. And he's a guy that's on paper listed near the bottom of the list, right? 2:18:03 is near the bottom of the elite field, but he's not. He's a guy that he's going to be contending for a title, and if he's there within 3 or 4 miles to go, he's got a real shot. And with John, John had COVID and some other serious illnesses for a few years in a row. not unlike many of some of the best runners in the country. And I think he, like a few others, suffered greatly because of it. And I believe for him, he's finally on the other side of the mountain, and his steam is really starting to pick up. He's really starting to see the fruits of all the labor over the past few years. He's had segments where he's run faster, but just because a segment was perfect or that much faster doesn't mean it's going to yield results. He got really sick leading into New York City last year. But this time around, there's still 10 days to go, so we're going to knock on wood. We're going to pray a bit for some good luck and for everybody, of course. But I'm really excited to see him come away. And if he has his day, he's going to walk away with a great PR.